Yes, sir. Hello, hello, hello. Yes, sir. Yes, yes. Yep. Yep. Uh-huh. Yep. That is correct. That is correct. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Martin. Hello, everyone. Appreciate you all for being here. I want to start this presentation off with a 1 minute clip. If I can, figure out the technology. Let me, and I'll do that. I'll hit that one. Just give me 1 second to get it set up. And then I also need to, Exactly, yeah. Now I've got it all set here. Let me share my screen and then I will share let me share that. And then and I need to get the sound to share as well. So let me find that. And then I'll be good to go. Share. Yes, yes. Sharing screen. And I want to make sure you can hear the sound. Oh no. Share sound. Great. I think I got it. Whew. Share Zoom. Well, no, it's not gonna work. The Zoom is wanting to reset or whatever. So there's this video to prepare the presentation. So my context is not just to talk about Noble as a company. I want to give you a broad perspective and different views and opinions. So not just from what I know and not just from people that I talk to. I kind of did some research to kind of make this presentation more in depth. And there's this podcast. Lex Friedman is a MIT research scientist, and he's got a podcast. Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. And there's this fascinating conversation that they have about the future of AI. And I wanted to start with the clip, and I don't have it ready, but what I do have is a transcription of it. So I'll just read to you this 1 minute clip, and then we'll get started. So when this conversation begins, Lex Friedman starts and he says, "I believe that it is a critical moment. We stand on the precipice of fundamental societal transformation, where soon, nobody knows when, but many, including me, believe that it is within our lifetime, the collective intelligence of the human species begins to pale in comparison by many orders of magnitude to the general superintelligence in the AI systems we build and deploy at scale. And this is both exciting and terrifying. It is exciting because of the innumerable applications we know and don't know yet that will empower humans to create, to flourish, to escape the widespread poverty and suffering that exists in the world today, and to succeed in that old, all too human pursuit of happiness. But it is also terrifying because of the power that super intelligent AGI wields to destroy human civilization intentionally or unintentionally. Okay. So that's how this conversation starts between these two, this podcast. And I felt that it's a great balance to me, what I've learned. Because when I talk to people about AI, you find different perspectives. I find 5 different categories of people. Some people don't know hardly anything about it. They're not paying attention. They're pretty much disconnected from it. Other people, they may have dabbled a little bit. They're doing a little bit. They hear of AI. They've maybe played with it, but they don't see it being that special. It's got mistakes. It's got errors. It's not going to do too much, right? Then you've got the third group of people like me, who I've been on this for years, but even when ChatGPT came out, I've been playing with it. I've been looking at ideas, business ideas, trying to improve my workflow, trying to get me an AI assistant to do stuff for me so I can make money while I sleep, So there's that group of people. And then the last group of people are those who are fearful, but they're fearful just because of headlines, just because of science fiction. They don't really have much experience, but they're just talking and they're worried about their job, but again, they're not really involved in it. And then the 5th group are people I've learned that know a whole lot more than me. They understand science, maybe they're connected to military, but they see weapons, so they actually have a fear that seems to be grounded in a bit of truth. So there's 5 different types of people, but again, like Lex Friedman said, it's exciting and terrifying. And I'm learning to not just be excited about what's happening. I'm learning to understand that there's a balance, there's a big unknown. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today. I want to talk about the positive and the negative, the disruption, the excitement, but also I want us all to be aware of the other side of what can happen. So again, good morning. My name is Arvell Craig. And the way I titled it was, I want to talk about how AI is shaping the future in a way that we just don't know. It is yet to be determined. But as Christians, as entrepreneurs, as investors, I believe that we have a responsibility to be on the forefront, to not just understand the technology and take advantage of it, but to understand how, to me, humanity is going to change, and how can we create solutions? How can we be a voice to help people, depending on what your focus is in your business or your life? I do think there's a balance between using the technology, but also understanding the changes of humanity and being available for that as well. Now, I've got 25 minutes or so to go through my presentation. I want to briefly cover some basic terms just to make sure we're all on the same page. You kind of know where I'm coming from. I don't know much of you in this audience. I don't know how much you know, how much you don't know. So I do want to cover a few of those things. And then the core of the agenda is talk about what's different, what's possible, what's probable, and then, what you can do next, depending on, what your business or what your focus is. And if there's time for Q&A, I'll hopefully be able to take some questions. So I got a lot of information, so let's get right into it. So the first thing I wanted to share, so my bio was kind of already explained, so I'm not going to spend much time on this. But the main thing is that I started my first company in college making websites. And so I've always been playing with technology, always been using it. And then like you see here in 2017, I got into chatbots, but I've always been kind of using technology, but I've also been in the business of speaking and preaching and coaching. And so there's always been this balance of who I am. But this year, I got connected with the company Noble, and they have an enterprise conversational AI platform, which, I was excited to kind of bring my experience with them and kind of help them to do what they do. So I'll talk a little bit about Noble later, but again, that's not the focus. But I just wanted to share some updates about me. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, born in Detroit, and lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma for about 12 years when I went to ORU. And anyway, so that's a little about me personally. But let's get into the conversation. So again, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a data scientist. So I try to make things as understandable and as simple as possible. So the first thing I want to talk about is AI and ML, machine learning. So we hear the term AI, and AI is being used to describe almost everything. I tell people the best way to I think machine learning is often a better term to describe what we actually see and what we use and what's happening with technology. And the way to understand machine learning, to me, it's simply a computer's ability to like take mass data and not just learn from it, but also to predict what's going to be next. Like it's like a pattern recognition system. So it understands patterns based upon all the data that it studies and the way it's trained. And then it's trained to predict and understand what the person wants or expects or what's going to come next in the sequence. So to me, machine learning, because artificial intelligence sometimes can be confused with, is it intelligent? Is it sentient? Is it alive? Is there a conscious or a soul? All those kind of philosophical ideas that we can't really get into, which isn't accurate. So for our understanding, as you leave here, most of AI to me is going to be machine learning. So there's that definition I want to explain. The next thing, generative AI, that's the new hot, sexy topic, right? In November, the ChatGPT and generative AI is where the AI doesn't just predict what you may want based on past patterns. It actually creates something new that somewhat never existed, right? It's creating text, copy, words, poetry. It's creating images, visuals, code, software. You're using natural language and you're asking the AI to do something, and it's creating software and code, music, 3D objects. Oftentimes it's hallucinating. There's a lot that it generates that we don't know what it's going to do. And that's sometimes scary. We can't always control what it generates, but that generative AI is a certain type of AI. That's one thing that's really new today. So I want to highlight that generative aspect of what the AI looks like in today. So now let's briefly talk about AGI, which is different from AI. AGI is artificial general intelligence. And so companies like OpenAI and DeepMind and all these billion-dollar, trillion-dollar companies that are trying to really work on AI, what they're really trying to do is create what's called AGI, artificial general intelligence. And to simplify what that phrase means, it's when the AI system can reason and plan and learn. It's not just AI. It's not limited to AI. This is where it seems like the AI is alive. So this does not exist as far as most people are concerned. AGI is not alive. It's not here now. But a company like OpenAI, when they were started in 2015, their goal was to create AGI. Their goal was to create AI that was not just a machine learning prediction pattern recognition device. It was something that could truly evolve and be way beyond human intelligence. So that is AGI. And it's not, and that technically does not exist yet, as far as we know. Just want to separate, just again for your future reference. Almost done. Two more terms. One more thing. So large language models, LLMs, you could think of it as the brain, the raw brain that is used to eventually train and use these AI models. So LLMs, there's many different types. But anyway, just want to care. So LLM, large language models, that is like the brain behind any type of AI, generative AI system. And I think that's all my terms. So hopefully it's not too deep for you. Oh, one last thing. So OpenAI, is a company. Originally it was a nonprofit. Eventually they needed more money. So they got investing. They became partially a profit-based company. Microsoft gave billions into them so they could move faster. So, GPT-4 is a type of LLM. It's a type of brain. It's the most advanced brain that's out there now. And it's the one that fuels ChatGPT, which is a consumer-friendly product. So just want to make sure, again, not knowing if you know, these are some of the big picture distinctions. And Noble, the company that I work with, we have our own, you call it brand GPT, which we've trademarked. We have our own LLMs, or we use a different type of brain. And when we're using conversational AI and AI tools, we don't do generative AI. We don't use the brain to tell it to create something that never existed. We use the LLM, the brain, to understand what the person wants, but the only thing that we would speak back to them is content they've already created, content they've already approved, content that's already compliant and is private and is secure. So we don't do generative conversations. It's a kind of a brand specific, company specific AI. So that is my definitions. So let's get into the topic. So what makes today's AI different? Okay, again, AI, right? It's not new, right? AI is not new. It's been around since the 1950s. You think of Alexa and Siri, self-driving cars, YouTube recommendations, Quant. You know, when you're using your phone and you're trying to type and it predicts, it's pattern recognition. It knows, it tries to autocomplete what you're saying, right? So AI is not new, right? That's not what's happening now. But ChatGPT, this product that came out in November, you know, it's the fastest growing application in history. Nothing has ever been, has grown and has been developed and is used that fast. In 5 days, 1 million people were using it. It took Instagram 2.5 months to get there, Facebook 10 months to get 1 million. You can see here, in 2 months, 100 million users using it daily. This was February. I don't know what it is now. So it's the fastest growing application in history. People are using it. And that is definitely something to pay attention to, because they're using it. And you think about just the basic machine learning, it's going to be learning and growing and evolving. I don't even know how to describe how much it's probably evolved in the past 4 months with all this usage, right? So that's new. It's just there's a speed aspect here. And GPT-4, which is the brain of ChatGPT, one of the most sophisticated brain they have, one guy described it as what is it made of? Think of all the text, anything that's written throughout all human history that's digital was used to make this brain. That's how they made it. That's what they used. That's the raw material. Every bit of text in human history was used to make this brain. The good, the bad, the ugly, right? That's how they made the brain of GPT-4. Okay. So that's new, right? And I don't know if you've heard the stories about how smart it is, the quality. ChatGPT, you know, they've done some tests. It passed the bar exam. This is the American Bar Association shares, you know, Wharton School of Business says it passed the MBA. Think of any test, scientific test, intelligence test, right? Of course, you think about, it knows everything, right? Everything on the internet, everything in Wikipedia, everything ever searched, it knows it. And that's just the raw material that it's starting with. So it's very smart. And again, things are moving. The industry is moving very fast, okay? It's growing, it's fasting. This is not ChatGPT. It's not OpenAI. I don't know if you've seen this before, but this is a painting created by AI. It is not real. There's nothing true about this. There was no paintbrush, nothing. But this is an example of the quality of not just, I mentioned those other tests. Those are intellectual tests. This is generative. This is its creative ability, what it can do. There's a photo. These people are not real. There's nothing real about these people. It invented this based upon whatever somebody told it to do. Simple words. It created this picture. So the quality of not just its intelligence, but the quality of what it can visually create is impressive. And I'll just share a couple other things here. Like, this is just one of many products. Voice. So this website, play.ht, it's using one of those brains, one of those LLMs, and it can not only sample your voice. If you go to play.ht, it can make the voice of The Rock, Elon Musk, Barack Obama, Kevin Hart. So in other words, it can replicate the voice of any person, and you can make it sound like, and it can say whatever you want it to say. This is pretty interesting. I saw this last week. I use Upwork I've hired people. I started hiring people like in 2010 using freelancer.com, upwork.com, and I still hire freelancers every now and then for projects. This is an AI freelancer platform. There's 800 AI freelancers. They're not real people, but it's bots trained with specific skill sets, fine-tuned to, so it's that same big brain I mentioned, but it's narrow to specific, attributes. So imagine the future of workforce and the future of your companies and hiring people, or you could, there's companies being built now that, again, you can go here and again, I haven't tested it out, but this is one of probably many companies that are creating agents, freelancers that are not real, that can do the type of tasks that you may need or may want. A couple last things. And if you're really bored, you can go to, this is one of many sites, futuretools.io. You can see there's 1,455 AI tools that can augment, help you do your work of, who knows, different types of, anyway, that's just a sample site if you wanted to look at more, because they're being invented and created. Because remember I said the AI not only creates text, it creates code. So software development is happening faster than ever. And it's fascinating. And I will mention one thing. So I created a book. A month ago, I was in a workshop teaching AI tools with a bunch of marketers, and they were showing how you could write a book. So in 2 hours, I had a first draft of this book. And then a week later, I spent another 2 hours adding content that I already wrote. So I wrote a book. This is my second or third book, but I wrote it 80, 90%, 70% AI based. Then I had my own content, but I had it in Kindle published, 1 week after I came up with the idea in this workshop just to experiment. Anyway, that's just one of my little projects, just playing around. So again, there's a lot of things that are happening. And so a couple last things on this topic. Like I said, it's simple. You think about AI in the 1950s or 40s, or think of hackers, right? Hackers are normally smart, right? People that create fake stuff or create text, you're normally pretty smart. Right now, to make these kind of AI things, it's just text. It's just a prompt. So when it comes to the infrastructure, I'm not going to spend much time on this, but the large language models are using the internet and all this data. There's just many different steps, but the prompt engineer, the act of prompting is just simple text. So the main thing I wanted to say was you don't have to understand the brain, the LLM, the APIs. You don't have to be a developer. You don't have to be smart. You can just type basic prompts or text, and you can get it to create amazing things. So it's so simple right now that anybody can do this. Okay. So what that means is, again, I've kind of shared you a little bit about what's possible, and all that is the exciting part and the fun part and the cool part. But one of the things that Sam Altman says, what does this mean? What's happening? One thing is really clear, that the cost, he says, of energy, but the cost of energy and intelligence, he says, will dramatically decrease. If anybody can go to ChatGPT and answer any question on any topic, it's the cost of intelligence is dramatically decreasing. And he says energy will also decrease. I don't know what that does to the world. When you think you're smart because I've been to college for 10 years and somebody can access that information in 5 seconds. So what makes you unique? What makes you stand out? That kind of is as always concerning to me. So a couple more things. And one thing that I believe, that I'm aware of, anything online, anything digital can be fake, can be replicated. This picture is not real. This picture was AI generated, put in a white coat. It's not real. So anything, even now, we're sitting here talking. My voice could be AI. I don't think video is this good yet, but in a year from now, I'm certain that video would be just as good. And but that's where things are headed. So what does that mean? There's lots of implications that you have to decide for your own business and your own responsibilities. But Yeah, there's things to think about. Anything online can be fake. And the last thing I'll mention is the alignment problem, which is one last term that I learned in this research, was that alignment is when the engineers, the people that are creating these AI systems, when they understand why the AI does what it does. Like I mentioned, machine learning is the machine predicting what you want. Alignment is when the humans can predict what the AI is going to do. So misalignment is when the AI does stuff that you don't know why it's doing it. And that is a big concern. The people who are most fearful about AI, they're like, the way the brain works, the way the AI brain works, there's a gap between what it can do and why it does it. And even now, some people don't know why it's doing what it's doing. And that's the part that makes this whole thing scary. This guy is I think he's the most prolific person when it comes to the fear of AI, but he's pretty much convinced that the way we're building AI, literally everyone on earth will die. Again, not to be dark and morbid, but he says this. A lot of people are in fear that it's obvious that that the AI, if it's smarter than you, then it can trick you. And that's the kind of the danger of if we don't understand what the AI is doing. And one of the last few things I want to cover is, so there's possibilities positive, there's possibilities negative, but we don't know. But one thing is clear, what is probable is that the world will change. Certain jobs will be created that have never even been around before. Certain jobs will be cut when you have all this speed and this advancement. And every person who works, their jobs, their abilities will be enhanced when they start to leverage AI tools, in what they're doing. That is pretty much, that is pretty clear. And I want to check on my time. Is it 3 minutes or whatever, where are we at with time? Okay. So I'm going to skip some of these. So I was just going into depth about the jobs that we created. And this is one thing that was interesting in that Sam Altman conversation. He talked about universal basic income. Pretty much, if intelligence is cheap and if we're so advanced, what does that do with our economy and the workforce? I'm always concerned with mental health. As Christians, some people are afraid of what's happening. And I think it might increase. So I feel like if the world is going to be more afraid, I want to be prepared with an alternative. I want to be understanding of their mental and emotional health. And I do think it is our responsibility to have a voice to bring comfort to people who don't, who are worried and are freaking out. There's regulation, state, federal, international, that's going to be coming as well. So again, here's Elon Musk with this quote. People are fearful of what's happening. I like this is a Calvin College VP said, as the world becomes more complex and automated, we must become more tuned to matters of the heart. I love this quote by Ralph Abernathy. He says, I don't know the future, but I know who holds it. And that's my message to you all, we need to be strengthened in our faith of what we believe. And we need to create solutions. If you're not involved, if you're not using some of these things, if you're kind of on the sideline, the least thing you can do is create an account and start searching for how, your job or your career, your profession, your industry, and put in the search ChatGPT prompts for your job or your role or your market. Search for AI tools that relate. Understand how you as a professional, as a human, can advance what you're doing with AI. And then as a company, there's a difference between generative AI and non-generative. Subscribe to some AI newsletters. Contact me if you have questions specifically on corporate usage and things you can do. But again, time went a little bit quick, but I will stop there. And I thank you all for listening. And I will stop right on time. Yeah. Okay.